I returned early to find my sister in my wedding dress, kissing my fiancé. "We're married," she laughed, "and Mom agreed to give us your company." They thought I was powerless. They didn't know my late father left me a secret weapon in his old journal. Hello everyone. Thank you for being here with me today. Before I begin my story, grab a warm cup of tea and get comfortable. I'd love to know what time of day you're watching this video. Please comment M for morning, A for afternoon, or E for evening. Now, let me take you into this story. The code to my own penthouse didn't work. I punched the numbers into the keypad again, my fingers trembling slightly from a mix of jet lag and rising panic. 1988. Nothing. The small light blinked in angry red, denying me entry to the home I had bought with my own money, the sanctuary I had designed with my own hands. I stood there in the hallway, my suitcase heavy by my side, a strange, cold knot forming in the pit of my stomach. I was supposed to be in Italy for another 3 days. I had flown back early to surprise Garrett, to celebrate the design award I had just won, a victory that was supposed to secure the future of Sterling Interiors. But standing here, in the silence of the corridor, the only surprise seemed to be waiting for me. I tried the code one more time. Still red. With a huff of frustration, I dug through my purse for the physical emergency key I kept buried in a side pocket. Thank God I was paranoid enough to keep it. The lock turned with a heavy click, and I pushed the door open. The first thing that hit me wasn't the relief of being home. It was the smell. My apartment usually smelled of fresh lavender and the crisp scent of old paper from my drafting table. Now, the air was thick, choking with the cloying sweetness of cheap vanilla perfume. It was a scent I knew. It was the scent my younger sister, Tiffany, had worn since high school. Why was Tiffany in my apartment while I was away? I stepped inside, letting the door click shut behind me. My eyes scanned the living room, and my breath hitched in my throat. My minimalist, carefully curated space was gone. In its place were gaudy, gold-rimmed throw pillows scattered everywhere, and a massive, tacky crystal vase sitting on my coffee table, filled with wilting roses. My architectural sketches, which I usually kept displayed on the main wall, were taken down, replaced by a massive, framed photo of Garrett. Just Garrett. Smiling that charming smile that used to make my knees weak, but now, for some reason, sent a shiver of dread down my spine. Garrett. I called out, my voice sounding small in the altered space. Silence. I walked further in, my heels clicking on the hardwood floor. I headed straight for the master bedroom. I needed to put my bag down, I needed to wash this travel grime off, and I needed to understand why my sister's perfume was marinating my furniture. I pushed the bedroom door open and froze. The closet doors were wide open. My eyes went instantly to the special, climate-controlled glass cabinet where I kept it. The dress. It was a vintage lace gown, passed down from my grandmother to my mother, and then to me. It was the dress I was supposed to wear in 2 months when I walked down the aisle to marry Garrett Vance. The cabinet was empty. The hanger lay on the floor, discarded like trash. No, I whispered, dropping my purse. I rushed over, touching the cold glass as if my touch could make the silk and lace reappear. It was gone. My grandmother's legacy, the one thing my mother hadn't been able to give to Tiffany because it was specifically bequeathed to me, was gone. Panic, cold and sharp, finally pierced through the confusion. I turned around, looking for my phone to call Garrett, to call the police, to call anyone. That's when the large flat-screen TV on the wall opposite the bed flickered to life. I hadn't touched the remote. It must have been set on a timer, or perhaps someone had left it on mute. The breaking news banner at the bottom of the screen caught my eye. It was red, urgent. And then I saw my own face. It was my professional headshot, the one from the Sterling Interiors website. I stepped closer, trembling, turning up the volume on the side of the panel. The news anchor's voice was grave. Breaking news in the business world today. A warrant has been issued for the arrest of Mallory Sterling, CEO of the renowned design firm Sterling Interiors. Authorities allege that Sterling has embezzled over $2 million from company accounts before fleeing the country earlier this week. Sources close to the family say. The room spun. Embezzled? Fleeing? I was on a business trip. A trip Garrett had practically pushed me to take. He had told me I needed the exposure. He had told me to sign that limited power of attorney so he could handle the contractors while I was gone. Oh my God, I gasped, clutching my chest. The power of attorney. I had signed it. I had trusted him. The sound of the front door opening cut through the noise of the news report. I heard laughter. Familiar, boisterous laughter. It was Garrett. And mixed with his deep baritone was the high-pitched giggle of my sister. I stood frozen in the bedroom, the news anchor still droning on about my alleged crimes as footsteps approached. I looked down at my hands, shaking uncontrollably. They weren't just here to surprise me. They were here to replace me. Babe, did you see the look on the doorman's face when we told him to ban her name? Garrett's voice boomed, dripping with arrogance. Priceless. I know, right? Tiffany's voice was a purr. Finally, this place feels like ours. Although, we really need to get rid of that ugly gray sofa. It's so depressing. Just like her. I stepped out of the bedroom and into the hallway, blocking their path. The laughter died instantly. Garrett stopped dead, his arm wrapped tight around Tiffany's waist. But it wasn't the intimacy that made bile rise in my throat. It was what Tiffany was wearing. My dress. She had altered it. The delicate, high-neck lace collar had been ripped away to create a plunging, vulgar neckline. The vintage silk train had been hacked off to make it T-length. It looked like a cheap costume version of my grandmother's legacy. And on her finger, sparkling under the hallway lights, was a diamond ring. Not just any ring. It was the upgraded version of the engagement ring Garrett had promised me he was saving for. Mallory. Garrett didn't look scared. He didn't look guilty. He looked annoyed. Like I was a stain on his new rug. You're supposed to be in Italy. And you're supposed to be my fiancé, I said, my voice shaking with a rage so hot it felt cold. Why is my sister wearing my wedding dress, Garrett? And why is the news saying I'm a criminal? Tiffany stepped forward, smirking. She smoothed the butchered lace over her hips. Correction, Mallory. I'm wearing my wedding dress. And he's not your fiancé anymore. Meet my husband. She waved her hand, showing off a gold wedding band nestled next to the diamond. We got married yesterday. Courthouse. Quick and dirty. Just how we like it. I felt the blood drain from my face. You married him? You're my sister, Tiffany. Stepsister, technically, if we want to get into the boring genetics, she rolled her eyes. But honestly, I did you a favor. You were always too boring for him. Garrett needs a woman, not a calculator in a skirt. Get out of my house, I whispered, pointing to the door. Both of you. Get out. Garrett chuckled, a low, menacing sound. He walked over to the side table and poured himself a drink from my crystal decanter. It's not your house anymore, Mal. Remember that power of attorney you signed? You gave me full control over your assets to manage them while you were away. And I managed them. I transferred the deed to this penthouse to the new Sterling Vance Trust, which, as of yesterday, Tiffany and I control. That was for business decisions. I screamed. That was for paying contractors. It was a broad document, Mallory. You should have read the fine print. You always were too trusting, Garrett sneered, taking a sip. Just like your father. Before I could lunge at him, the door opened again. My mother, Eleanor, walked in. She was carrying shopping bags from the most expensive boutiques on the Magnificent Mile. Mom, I cried out, rushing towards her. Mom, tell them this is insane. Tiffany stole my dress. Garrett stole the house. Eleanor looked at me, then at Tiffany. She walked past me and set the bags down on the sofa. She walked over to Tiffany and adjusted the strap of the dress her own mother had worn. Oh, Tiff, honey, be careful with the lace. It's old, Mom said softly. Then she turned to me, her face hardening. Mallory, stop making a scene. You're upsetting your sister. Upsetting her? I choked out. She's wearing my dress. She married my fiancé. Well, maybe if you had paid more attention to Garrett instead of that obsession with your company, he wouldn't have looked elsewhere, Mom said, her voice icy. Tiffany needs someone to take care of her. You know she's not like you. You're strong, Mallory. You're independent. You can build another company. You can buy another house. Tiffany needs this security. My knees nearly gave out. It was the same song she had been singing my whole life. Mallory is the workhorse. Tiffany is the prize. You knew. I whispered. You helped them. I secured the future of this family, Mom said, lifting her chin. Garrett is going to merge Sterling Interiors with his family's company, Vanguard. It's what's best for everyone. You were running it into the ground anyway. I made $3 million in profit last year. I yelled. And now you've stolen $2 million of it, Garrett interrupted, checking his watch. Or at least, that's what the police think. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting louder. You framed me, I realized, looking at the three of them. The unholy trinity. My fiancé, my sister, my mother. You transferred the money to make it look like I took it. We moved it to offshore accounts under your name, Garrett confirmed with a cruel smile. And then we tipped off the authorities about suspicious activity. You're a flight risk, Mal caught returning from Italy with who knows what intentions. The elevator dinged. Heavy pounding on the door followed. Police. Open up. I looked at my mother. She wouldn't meet my eyes. She was busy fixing Tiffany's hair for the inevitable press photos. As the officers burst into the room, handcuffing me and reading me my rights, I didn't cry. I looked at Garrett, smiling over the rim of his glass. I looked at Tiffany, preening in my stolen legacy. And I looked at my mother, who had sold her firstborn daughter for a comfortable retirement. They thought this was the end. They thought they had buried me. But as the cold metal clicked around my wrists, a strange calm settled over me. They had buried me, yes. But they forgot I was a seed. The holding cell smelled of bleach, stale sweat, and despair. It was freezing. I sat on the thin metal bench, hugging my knees to my chest, my expensive Italian silk blouse wrinkled and stained. The shock was starting to wear off, replaced by a hollow, aching clarity. It was a feeling I had known my entire life, one I had tried to bury under layers of overachievement and perfectionism. I closed my eyes and let the memories wash over me. It wasn't the first time I had been sacrificed for Tiffany. I remembered being 16. I was in the garage with my dad, Robert Sterling. It was dusty, hot, and smelled of sawdust. We were building a prototype for a custom shelving unit, the very first product of what would become Sterling Interiors. I had blisters on my fingers and sweat dripping down my back. Dad was teaching me how to sand the wood with the grain, his large, rough hands guiding mine. You have the eye, Mallory, he had told me, his voice gruff but warm. You see the structure, the bones of things. Most people just see the paint. That same day, Tiffany had come running into the garage in her ballet tutu. She hadn't practiced a single day, but she wanted to be the lead in the recital. Mom followed her, holding a checkbook. Robert, Mom had said, ignoring me completely. The dance instructor says Tiffany needs private lessons if she wants the solo. It's $3,000. We need that money for lumber, Eleanor, Dad had argued, wiping his brow. Mallory and I have orders to fill. Mallory can wait, Mom had snapped. Look at Tiffany. She's a star. Mallory is sturdy. She can handle disappointment. Tiffany is fragile. Dad had fought for me that day, but Mom wore him down. She always did. The lumber money went to dance lessons. Tiffany got the solo, danced for 3 minutes, got bored, and quit ballet a week later. I never got my lumber. I had to scavenge scrap wood from construction sites to finish those orders. That was the pattern. I was the workhorse. Tiffany was the show pony. I was the provider. She was the consumer. And Mom was the broker who transferred resources from me to her. But the most painful memory, the one that stung more than the cold metal bench, was the day Dad died 2 years ago. He was in the hospital, hooked up to machines, his heart failing him. He had been stressed for months, worried about a merger Garrett was pushing for. Garrett's family, the Fiancés, owned Vanguard Holdings, a massive real estate conglomerate. They were sharks. Dad hated them. I was sitting by his bedside, holding his hand. Garrett was in the hallway, pacing, talking on his phone. Dad had pulled me close, his breathing ragged. His grip was surprisingly strong. Mallory, he had wheezed. Listen to me. The contract. In the journal. You have to find the journal. I know, Dad, the design journal. I had soothed him. I have all your designs. No, he coughed, his eyes wide with panic. Not designs. The poison pill. Garrett, he's not. Suddenly, Garrett had burst into the room. Nurse. He's getting agitated. You need to sedate him. No, let him speak. I had yelled. But the nurses rushed in. Garrett pulled me back, his hands firm on my shoulders. Shoo, babe, let him rest. Don't stress him out. Dad's eyes had locked onto mine, desperate, pleading. He tried to mouth something else, but the sedative took hold. He slipped into a coma and died that night. I had always thought Garrett was just being protective. I thought he was trying to save Dad from pain. Now, sitting in this jail cell, the truth hit me like a physical blow. Garrett hadn't been protecting Dad. He had been silencing him. The journal, I whispered to the empty cell. I had looked for it after the funeral. I found plenty of sketchbooks, but never a journal. I assumed in his delirium he was confused. But what if he wasn't? And then there was the poison pill. In business terms, a poison pill is a defense tactic used by companies to prevent a hostile takeover. Dad had built sterling interiors to be independent. He hated debt. He hated the Vance family's business model of stripping companies for parts. If there was a contract, a real document that Dad had hidden, it could be the key. But I was stuck in here. My assets were frozen. My credibility was destroyed. My family was the enemy. I looked at my reflection in the distorted metal of the toilet unit. My hair was messy, my makeup smeared. I looked like a victim. No, I said aloud. My voice was raspy but steady. I stood up and walked to the bars. Guard. I called out. I need to make my phone call. I wasn't calling Mom. I wasn't calling Garrett. I was calling the one person who had told me for years that Garrett was a snake, the one person I had pushed away because I wanted to believe in my fairy tale. Deidre. My college roommate. The toughest divorce lawyer in Chicago. The Mallory who begged for crumbs of affection from her mother was dead. She died the moment she saw her sister in that wedding dress. The woman standing in the cell was Robert Sterling's daughter. And I was done being sturdy. It was time to be dangerous. You look like hell, Mal. Deidre stood on the other side of the glass partition, her sharp bob cut slicing the air as she shook her head. But her eyes were kind. She had dropped everything to come down here at 3 a.m. Nice to see you too, Dee. I managed a weak smile. Thanks for taking the case. I haven't taken the case yet, she said, opening her briefcase. I'm here to bail you out. I put up my condo as collateral because all your accounts are locked tight. You owe me big time. I'll pay you back, I promised. Every cent. We'll worry about that later. Right now, we need to get you out before the morning press circus gets worse. She wasn't joking. When we walked out of the precinct 2 hours later, the flashbulbs were blinding. Reporters were shouting questions that felt like accusations. Mallory, did you steal the money to fund a secret life in Italy? How do you feel about your sister marrying your fiancé? Is it true you're a drug addict? Deidre shoved a coat over my head and guided me into her beat-up sedan. Ignore them. Don't say a word. We drove in silence to Deidre's small apartment on the outskirts of the city. It was a far cry from my penthouse, cluttered with legal briefs and takeout boxes, but right now, it felt like the safest place on earth. Okay, Deidre said, tossing her keys on the table. She turned on her laptop and spun it around to face me. This is what we're dealing with. Social media was a bloodbath. Hashtags like #GreedySister and #MalloryTheThief were trending. There were photos of Tiffany and Garrett looking like a tragic, star-crossed couple who had been victimized by me. My mother had even given a statement to a tabloid, "We are heartbroken by Mallory's actions." We always knew she had a dark side, but we never expected this. A dark side. I laughed, a harsh, brittle sound. I spent my weekends organizing the fabric library. My dark side is preferring dark chocolate over milk. They're controlling the narrative, Deidre said, pouring 2 glasses of cheap wine. Garrett is smart. He moved fast. He has the power of attorney, the marriage certificate, and the sympathy vote. Legally, getting your assets back is going to be a nightmare. The embezzlement charges are serious. If we can't prove the money was moved by him, you're looking at 10 years in prison. I took the wine glass, my hand steady now. I walked over to the bathroom mirror. I looked at the long, blonde waves that Garrett loved so much. He always said I looked like a princess. A doll. I grabbed the scissors from Deidre's counter. Mal, what are you doing? Deidre asked from the doorway. I'm done being a doll, I said. Snip. A long lock of golden hair fell into the sink. Snip. Snip. I cut it all off. I hacked away the vanity, the softness, the part of me that tried to fit into their mold. When I was done, my hair was a choppy, chin-length bob. It looked sharp. Edgy. I washed my face, scrubbing away the smeared mascara. I turned to Deidre. Garrett thinks he won because he took my money and my house. But he forgot one thing. I built that company. I know where the bodies are buried. That's the spirit, Deidre grinned. So, where do we start? We start with the money, I said. Garrett isn't smart enough to cook the books alone. He's a gambler, D. He's impulsive. He needed help to move $2 million without triggering immediate alarms. You think someone inside helped him? I know someone did. But not voluntarily. I grabbed my phone, which Deidre had retrieved from my personal effects. Lyle. My head accountant. Garrett fired him 2 weeks before I left for Italy, said Lyle was too old school. I thought it was just Garrett being ageist. Now I think Lyle found something. If Lyle was fired, he won't have access to the servers anymore, Deidre pointed out. Lyle doesn't need servers, I said, dialing the number. Lyle keeps a physical ledger. He never trusted the cloud. He called it vaporware. If Garrett stole that money, Lyle wrote it down in a black notebook he keeps in his jacket pocket. Lyle picked up on the second ring. His voice was hushed. Mallory? Thank God. I saw the news. Are you safe? I'm safe, Lyle. I need to see you. I need the black book. Meet me at the diner on 4th and Main, he whispered. Come alone. And Mallory? Be careful. It's not just embezzlement. I think it's murder. The line went dead. I looked at Deidre. The air in the room suddenly felt very thin. Murder? Deidre breathed. My dad, I said, the realization hitting me like a freight train. Lyle thinks they killed my dad. The diner on 4th and Main was a relic of the past, smelling of burnt coffee and bacon grease. Lyle was sitting in a corner booth, wearing a trench coat and a hat pulled low, looking like a spy from a bad movie. But his hands were shaking as he gripped his coffee mug. Lyle, I slid into the booth opposite him. Deidre stayed in the car to keep watch. You look different, Lyle said, eyeing my hair. Tougher. I am tougher. Tell me what you know. Lyle reached into his coat and pulled out a small, leather-bound notebook. He slid it across the table. Garrett has been siphoning money from Sterling Interiors for 6 months, not just last week, Lyle said, his voice barely a whisper. Small amounts at first. Consultations that never happened. Supplier fees for materials we never ordered. He was using shell companies. I tracked them all. I opened the book. Rows of neat handwriting detailed every theft. Why didn't you tell me? I tried. Lyle insisted. I sent you emails. I left memos. I never got them, I said, frowning. Garrett, Lyle nodded grimly. He was intercepting your communications long before you went to Italy. He controls the IT department now. He installed spyware on your devices months ago, Mallory. He's been watching everything you do. A chill ran down my spine. The romantic texts, the surprise dinners, it wasn't love. It was surveillance. But that's not the worst part, Lyle said, leaning in closer. When I started digging into the shell companies, I found a connection to a pharmacy supplier. A shady one. They supply bulk medication to nursing homes, but they also have a backdoor for special requests. What does this have to do with Dad? I asked, my heart hammering against my ribs. Your father's heart medication, Lyle said. Digoxin. It requires a precise dosage. Too little, it doesn't work. Too much, it causes heart failure. Dad died of heart failure, I whispered. Garrett was the one picking up your father's prescriptions for the last 3 months of his life, Lyle said. He said he wanted to help out. But I found records of payments from one of Garrett's shell accounts to that pharmacy supplier. And I found a delivery log for a custom compound sent to Garrett's personal P.O. box the week your father died. I covered my mouth, nausea rolling over me. He poisoned him? To get the company. To stop him, Lyle corrected. Your father was about to trigger the poison pill. He was going to expose the Vance family's debt. Garrett couldn't let that happen. The Vance Empire, Vanguard Holdings, is a house of cards, Mallory. They are billions in debt. They needed Sterling Interior's assets to leverage a new loan. Your company is the only thing keeping them from bankruptcy. So he killed my father, married my sister, and framed me, all to pay off his family's debts, I said, the rage now a solid, cold iron bar in my chest. Yes, but proving the murder, that's hard without an autopsy, and your father was cremated, Lyle said sadly. However, proving the financial fraud, that we can do. But we need digital proof. This notebook is just my notes. We need the server logs. We need the emails Garrett deleted. We can't get into the servers, I said. He changed all the codes. I know someone, Lyle said. He pulled a business card out of his pocket. It was blank, except for a QR code and a single word written in marker, ghost. Who is this? His real name is Vince. He used to be a forensic auditor for the IRS, then he went rogue, Lyle explained. He hates the Vance family more than you do. Vanguard Holdings used a loophole to seize his parents' farm for a development project 5 years ago. His parents, they didn't take it well. They committed suicide. I stared at the card. A man with nothing to lose. A man with a vendetta. He's a hacker? I asked. He's a ghost, Lyle corrected. He can find things that don't exist anymore. Go to him. Tell him Lyle sent you. And tell him Garrett Vance is the target. I took the card. Thank you, Lyle. One more thing, Lyle grabbed my wrist. Your mother. Be careful. I found a monthly transfer of $5,000 from Garrett's personal account to hers. Starting 2 years ago. My world tilted. 2 years ago. Before Dad died. She's been on his payroll, I whispered. She wasn't just blind. She was bought. Get them, Mallory, Lyle said, his eyes fierce. For Robert. I slid out of the booth, clutching the black notebook and the white card. I walked out to Deidre's car, the wind whipping my short hair across my face. Where to? Deidre asked. I held up the card. We're going to hunt a ghost. The address the QR code led us to was a rundown electronics repair shop in the industrial district. The windows were barred, and the sign above the door hung by a single rusty chain, Tech Salvage. Are you sure about this? Deidre asked, looking at a flickering streetlight nervously. This looks like the place where horror movies start. Lyle trusts him, I said, unbuckling my seatbelt. And we're out of options. The law takes too long, Dee. By the time we get a subpoena for those servers, Garrett will have wiped them clean. We need a legal speed. I walked up to the door and knocked. No answer. I knocked again, harder. A voice crackled from a speaker box I hadn't noticed. We're closed. Lyle sent me, I said to the plastic box. I have a job. The target is Garrett Vance. There was a pause. A long one. Then a heavy buzzing sound, and the lock disengaged. I pushed the door open. The front room was piled high with old computer monitors, tangled wires, and broken motherboards. It smelled of ozone and solder. Back here, a deep voice called out. I navigated through the maze of junk to a heavy steel door at the back. It opened into a completely different world. The back room was freezing cold, server-cooled. Monitors covered an entire wall, glowing with streams of data. In the center sat a man in a swivel chair. He spun around. Vince. He wasn't what I expected. I expected a pimply kid in a hoodie. Vince was intense. He looked to be in his mid-30s, with dark, messy hair and stubble that spoke of sleepless nights. He wore a faded flannel shirt and jeans. But it was his eyes that caught me. They were sharp, intelligent, and incredibly tired. "You're the runaway bride," he said, not standing up. He gestured to one of his screens which was displaying the news report about me. "I didn't run away," I said, stepping forward. "I was pushed." "Mallory Sterling," Vince said, looking me up and down. "Princess of Design. Why should I help you? You're part of that elite circle. Your dad played golf with the Vances." "My dad is dead," I said, my voice hard. "Garrett Vance killed him. And he stole my company to prop up his family's failing empire. Lal told me what they did to your parents, Vince. We have the same enemy." Vince's expression didn't change, but his fingers stopped tapping on the armrest. "Murder is a big accusation. I have the accountant's notebook." I slammed Lyle's black book onto his desk. "But I need the digital trail. I need to prove he embezzled the money, not me. And I need to know what's happening in my penthouse right now." Vince stared at the book. Then he looked at me. He saw the desperate anger in my eyes, the choppy haircut, the lack of fear. "I charge a premium for corporate espionage," he said. "I have no money," I admitted. "Garrett froze everything. But I have 51% of Sterling Interiors. When I get it back, I'll give you 5%. Vince scoffed. "I don't want shares. I want Vanguard to burn. Help me, and we'll burn it to the ground together," I promised. He held my gaze for a long moment. Then he spun back to his keyboard. "You're lucky Garrett is arrogant. He didn't change the IP address of your smart home system. He just changed the user password. Amateur." Vince's fingers flew across the mechanical keyboard. The sound was like gunfire. "Bypassing the firewall, accessing the cloud backup, and we're in." On the giant wall of monitors, my penthouse appeared. The living room camera, the kitchen camera, even the hallway. It was live. "Oh God," I whispered, seeing strangers in my home. Garrett was on the sofa, feet up on my coffee table, drinking beer. Tiffany was pacing. "Turn up the audio," Vince commanded. Tiffany's voice filled the room. "Mom keeps calling. She says the press wants another interview." "Garrett, I don't know if I can do this. People are sending me hate mail." "Shut up, Tiff," Garrett groaned, not looking away from the TV. "You wanted to be the star, right? You wanted the rich husband? Deal with it." "But you promised we'd go to Paris," Tiffany whined. "You said once Mallory was gone, we'd take the money and travel. Why are we still here?" "Because the money is tied up in the merger, you idiot." Garrett snapped, sitting up. "I can't just withdraw cash until the deal with Vanguard closes next week. Until then, we are house poor. So stop buying ugly jewelry." "It's not ugly," Tiffany yelled. "And stop talking to me like I'm her." Garrett stood up. He loomed over Tiffany. He was a big man, and for the first time, I saw the violence in him that I had been too blind to see before. He grabbed Tiffany's arm. Hard. "Don't you ever compare yourself to her. Mallory was useful. She made money. You're just an expense. You're lucky I married you to secure the legacy. Now go make me a sandwich and shut up." He shoved her. Tiffany stumbled back, hitting her hip against the counter. She looked terrified. I gasped, my hand flying to my mouth. Vince paused the video. He looked at me. "He's hitting her?" "He never hit me," I whispered. "He manipulated me, gaslit me, but he never hit me." "Because you had the power," Vince said quietly. "You owned the company. Tiffany owns nothing. She's trapped." I looked at the frozen image of my sister, looking small and scared in my kitchen. I hated her for what she did. I hated her for the dress, for the betrayal. But seeing her like that— "We can use this," I said, my voice trembling. "Tiffany is the weak link. If we can turn her, we can destroy him." Vince nodded, a grim smile appearing on his face. "Psychological warfare. I like it. Let's see what else we can find on Mr. Vance's phone." Vince worked through the night. While he mined the data, I sat on a crate, watching the live feed of my apartment. It was a strange form of torture, watching my life go on without me, twisted into a grotesque parody. I watched Tiffany. She didn't look like a winner. After the argument with Garrett, she went into the guest room. Garrett had locked the master bedroom, presumably to keep her away from his business. She called our mother. Vince boosted the audio so we could hear both sides of the call through Tiffany's Bluetooth earpiece. "Mom, he pushed me," Tiffany sobbed, curling up on the bed. "He's so mean, Mom. He's not like he was when we were sneaking around." Eleanor's voice came through tinny but clear. "Oh, Tiffany, stop being dramatic. Men are under a lot of stress. He's managing a merger. You need to be supportive. Did you cook him dinner?" "I don't want to cook. I want to come home," Tiffany cried. "You cannot come home." Mom's voice was sharp. "Do you know how that would look? The press is camping on my lawn. If you leave him 2 days after the wedding, we all look like fools. And we lose the Vanguard support. Think about the money, Tiffany. Think about the lifestyle. Just endure it for a little while. Buy yourself a new purse." "I can't," Tiffany wailed. "He cut off my credit cards." "Then behave, and he'll give them back. Grow up, Tiffany." Click. I stared at the screen. "She's monster," I whispered. "My own mother." "Money makes people ugly," Vince muttered, typing away. "Got it." "What?" "Garrett's gambling debts. It's worse than Lyle thought." Vince pulled up a spreadsheet. "He owes $500,000 to a syndicate in Vegas. And another $200,000 in crypto losses. That's why he's desperate for the merger cash. He's not trying to save Vanguard. He's trying to save his kneecaps. And look at this." Vince opened a folder of photos. They were recovered from Garrett's deleted cloud folder. They were timestamps from last week. While I was in Italy. While he was supposedly planning the wedding with Tiffany. The photos showed Garrett in a hotel room. But not with Tiffany. With a brunette. I recognized her. It was his executive assistant, Sarah. "He's cheating on the mistress with the secretary," Deidre said, leaning over my shoulder. "Classy." "Tiffany thinks she won the prize," I said, a plan forming in my mind. "She thinks she's the love of his life. That's the only thing holding her together, the delusion that he chose her over me because of love." "So we break the delusion," Vince said. "Vince, can you send these photos to Tiffany's phone? But make it look like they came from an anonymous number." I asked. "Easy. I can even make it pop up as a memory notification so she can't miss it," Vince grinned. "Do it," I commanded. "And send her the gambling debt records too. Let her see that there is no money. That she married a broke, abusive cheater." We watched the screen. In the guest room, Tiffany's phone pinged. She picked it up, wiping her eyes. I watched her face change. Confusion. Then shock. Then horror. She swiped through the photos. She zoomed in on the timestamps. Her hand flew to her mouth. She started to shake, violently. She stood up and ran to the door, ready to confront him. Then she stopped. She touched her arm where he had grabbed her earlier. Fear replaced anger. She realized she was trapped in a penthouse with a violent man, with no money and no family to run to. "She's not going to confront him," I said. "She's too scared." "So push her harder," Vince suggested. "Give her a lifeline." "Not yet," I said. "Let her simmer. Let her realize that she burned her only bridge, me. She needs to understand that nobody is coming to save her. Not Mom. Not Garrett." I watched my sister sink to the floor, sobbing silently into her hands. It was the same spot where she had stood hours ago, mocking me in my wedding dress. "Karma is a bitch," Deidre muttered. "No," I said, standing up and smoothing my wrinkled jacket. "I'm the bitch. And I'm just getting started. What's the next move?" Vince asked, swiveling his chair to face me. "We need the poison pill," I said. "The journal Dad talked about. I know where it is. But it's not in the penthouse." "Where is it?" "It's in the one place I swore I'd never go back to," I said. "My mother's house. In Dad's old study. And since Mom is busy guarding her reputation, I'm going to break in." The plan was simple, but dangerous. We needed to keep Garrett and Tiffany distracted while I retrieved the journal. "We need to sow chaos," I told Vince. "Make them paranoid. If they're fighting each other, they won't be watching the house." Vince's fingers danced across the keyboard. "I can trigger the smart home system. Random lights flickering. Alarm tripping for no reason. I can even mess with the thermostat. Make it freezing cold in there. Do it, I said. And Deidre, I need you to leak a rumor to the press. Tell them that Mallory Sterling is planning to surrender and turn over incriminating evidence against an accomplice. Garrett will think you're turning on him. Deidre nodded. He'll panic. Exactly. And he'll think Tiffany is the weak link who might flip on him if the police pressure her. He'll tighten his grip on her, which will make her more desperate to escape. We watched the chaos unfold on the monitors. First, the lights in the penthouse started strobing. Garrett cursed, throwing his beer can at the wall. What the hell is wrong with this place? Then, the thermostat dropped to 50 degrees. Tiffany came out of the room, shivering, wrapping a blanket around herself. Garrett, it's freezing. Fix it. I'm trying, you useless cow, he yelled, banging on the control panel. It's locked out. It says, System override. Then, Deidre's leak hit the gossip logs. Vince flashed the notification on Garrett's phone. We saw Garrett read the headline, Runaway CEO returning to cut deal? Claims partner in crime set her up. Garrett's face went pale. He turned slowly to look at Tiffany. Did you talk to anyone? He hissed, walking towards her. No. I swear. Tiffany backed away. If she comes back, she's going to blame this all on us, Garrett paced, running a hand through his hair. We need to make sure the money is moved. Tonight. Garrett, who is Sarah? Tiffany blurted out. She couldn't hold it in. Garrett froze. Who? I got photos. Tiffany screamed, holding up her phone. You were with her at the Palmer house last week. You told me you were meeting with investors. Garrett lunged and snatched the phone from her hand. He smashed it onto the floor. You are delusional, he snarled. You're seeing things. Just like your crazy sister. Keep your mouth shut, Tiffany. Or you'll end up with nothing. Worse than nothing. You'll end up in jail as an accessory. I didn't sign anything. Tiffany cried. You signed the marriage license. Garrett laughed, a cruel, barking sound. That makes you liable for my debts, sweetheart. And my crimes. We're in this together. Till death do us part. He stormed out, presumably to go to his office to check the accounts. Tiffany was left alone in the freezing living room, staring at her shattered phone. She looked at the front door. She took a step towards it. Then she stopped. She remembered Mom's voice. You cannot come home. She collapsed onto the sofa, my sofa, and curled into a ball. She's ready, I said to Vince. Ready for what? Ready to turn, I said. But not yet. I need the journal first. If I go to her now, she might sell me out to get back in Garrett's good graces. I need the leverage that makes me undeniable. Your mom's house. Deidre checked her watch. Eleanor has her weekly bridge club at the country club tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. She never misses it. And Garrett will be busy trying to move money because of the spook, Vince added. Then tomorrow morning we break in, I said. I'm going to find what Dad left me. And then I'm going to bury them all. I looked at the screen one last time. Garrett had come back into the room. He was forcing Tiffany to drink something, probably a sedative to shut her up. She drank it, her hand shaking. It broke my heart. But it also steeled my resolve. The sister I knew was gone. The mother I loved was a lie. The fiancé I adored was a monster. I lay down on a pile of foam pads in the back of Vince's shop, pulling a rough blanket over me. I closed my eyes, but sleep didn't come. All I could see was the red access denied light on my own front door. Tomorrow, I wouldn't need a code. Tomorrow, I was kicking the door down. The next morning, the sky was a bruised purple, heavy with impending rain. It matched my mood perfectly. I sat in Deidre's car, parked 2 blocks away from the house I grew up in. It was a sprawling colonial in Lake Forest, manicured to within an inch of its life. It's 10:05, Vince said from the back seat. He was monitoring the GPS tracker he'd slapped on my mother's Mercedes the night before. She just pulled into the country club. You have exactly 2 hours before she finishes her bridge game and heads back. 2 hours is plenty, I said, pulling a black beanie over my choppy hair. I know this house better than she does. I cleaned it enough times. I slipped out of the car. The spare key I had hidden inside a fake rock near the garden shed 10 years ago was still there. Mom was too lazy to do yard work, and the gardeners never touched the decorative stones. The key turned with a rusty scrape. I stepped inside the mudroom. The silence of the house was oppressive. It smelled of lemon polish and expensive potpourri, the smell of a facade. I walked through the kitchen, my sneakers squeaking softly on the marble. I passed the hallway where the family photos used to hang. My breath hitched. Every single picture of me was gone. The photo of my graduation? Gone. The picture of me and Dad fishing? Gone. In their place were glamour shots of Tiffany. Tiffany at prom. Tiffany's modeling portfolio shots. Tiffany and Garrett at their engagement party. It was as if I had never existed. My mother hadn't just betrayed me, she had erased me. I forced myself to keep moving. Focus, Mallory. Find the journal. I headed to Dad's old study. Mom rarely went in there. She said it smelled like old man. I pushed the heavy oak door open. It creaked, a sound that instantly transported me back to my childhood. The room was dusty. Sheets covered the furniture. I walked to the large mahogany desk. I ran my hand over the leather surface where Dad used to sketch late into the night. "Okay, Dad," I whispered. "Where is it?" I checked the drawers. Empty. I checked the bookshelves. Just encyclopedias and tax codes. Then I remembered. The fireplace. When I was 7, Dad had shown me a loose brick behind the heavy iron grate. He said it was where he kept his treasure, which, back then, was usually a stash of chocolate bars he hid from Mom's diet police. I knelt on the cold hearth. I pulled the grate away, soot staining my hands. I felt around the back of the chimney wall. Loose brick. My heart hammered against my ribs. I wiggled it free. Behind it was a small, metal box. I pulled it out. It was locked. A 4-digit combination. I tried his birthday. Click, click, click. No. I tried Mom's birthday. No. I tried the date he founded the company. No. Panic started to prickle at my skin. Think, Mallory. What mattered to him? I closed my eyes. I remembered the last time we were in this room together. He was showing me the blueprints for the Sterling building. He told me, "You are the foundation, Mal. Everything starts with you." My birthday. With shaking fingers, I dialed in the numbers. 0612. Click. The lid popped open. Inside, there was no money. No jewelry. Just a thick, leather-bound journal and a heavy, sealed envelope made of yellowed paper. I opened the journal first. It wasn't just sketches. It was a log. A diary of his dealings with the Vance family. April 12th. Vanguard is pushing again. They want to dilute my shares. Garrett is smiling too much. I don't trust him. May 4th. I found out about the debt. The Vances are drowning. They've used Sterling Interiors as a life raft. They will strip it and leave my employees with nothing. I have to protect Mallory. June 20th. The week he died, I signed the contingency with Old Man Vance before he passed, but Garrett doesn't know it exists. If they try a hostile takeover, the poison pill activates. I need to tell Mallory. My heart feels heavy today. The new medication makes me dizzy. Tears blurred my vision. He knew. He knew they were coming for him. I picked up the sealed envelope. On the front, in Dad's handwriting, it said, "To be opened only in the event of a Vance betrayal." I didn't open it. I knew better than to tamper with sealed legal evidence. This was it. This was the gun. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. It was Vince. "Mallory, get out. She's coming back early. The tracker shows her 2 minutes away." What? Why? I don't know. Maybe she forgot something. Go. I shoved the journal and the envelope into my backpack. I shoved the brick back into the wall and replaced the grate. I sprinted for the back door. Just as I reached the kitchen, I heard the front door open. "Tiffany? Are you here?" Mom's voice echoed. I forgot my lucky bridge brooch. I froze behind the kitchen island. If she walked into the kitchen, she'd see me. Her heels clicked on the hardwood. Click, click, click. She stopped. Strange. I thought I heard something. She took a step toward the kitchen. I held my breath, clutching the backpack to my chest. I was a thief in the home I grew up in. Then, her phone rang. Hello? Yes, this is Eleanor. What? A reporter? No, I have no comment on my daughter's alleged crimes. How dare you? She turned around, distracted by her own indignation, and walked up the stairs to her bedroom. I didn't wait. I slipped out the back door, sprinting across the dew-soaked lawn, vaulting over the garden fence like a teenager sneaking out. I dove into Deidre's car, gasping for air. Drive, I wheezed. I got it. As we peeled away, I looked back at the house. It looked perfect from the outside, but I knew the rot was deep in the foundation. And I just stole the only thing that could knock it down. We drove straight to the First National Bank of Chicago. Deidre said the envelope needed to be opened in the presence of a notary and a bank official to maintain the chain of custody for court. We met in a private viewing room. The walls were lined with wood paneling, and the air smelled of old money and dust. A nervous-looking bank manager and a notary sat opposite us. Vince stood by the door, arms crossed, looking ready for a fight. This envelope was in the possession of the deceased, Robert Sterling, Deidre stated formally. It pertains to the ownership of Sterling Interiors. I handed the yellowed envelope to the manager. He sliced it open with a letter opener. The sound was like a scream in the quiet room. He pulled out a document. It wasn't just a few pages. It was a thick contract, stamped with wax seals from 30 years ago. The Independence Agreement. The manager read the title aloud. Between Robert Sterling and Arthur Vance, founder of Vanguard Holdings. Read Article 5, I said. Dad had mentioned it in the journal. The manager flipped through the pages. His eyes widened behind his glasses. He looked up at me, then at Deidre. Article 5, the Integrity Clause, he read. In exchange for Robert Sterling's initial investment to save Vanguard Holdings in 1995. Wait, I interrupted. Dad saved Vanguard? Apparently, Deidre said, reading over his shoulder. Your dad bailed out Garrett's grandfather. Keep reading. The Vance family agrees that Sterling Interiors shall remain an independent entity in perpetuity. Should any member of the Vance family or their direct descendants attempt a hostile takeover, manipulate stock prices, or harm the Sterling heirs' leadership through coercion or fraud, the poison pill is activated. What is the penalty? Vince asked from the door. The manager swallowed hard. The penalty is immediate forfeiture of all Vance family assets held as collateral against the Sterling partnership. Furthermore, a penalty fee of $50 million is payable immediately to the Sterling estate. If the Vances cannot pay, their controlling interest in Vanguard Holdings is transferred to the Sterling heir to liquidate as they see fit. Silence. Absolute, stunned silence. Holy shit, Vince whispered. Your dad didn't just build a defense. He built a nuke. He knew Arthur Vance was honorable, I realized, touching the paper. But he knew his grandson might not be. This contract, it means Garrett doesn't own my company. It means I own his company. If we can prove he violated the integrity clause, Deidre said, her lawyer brain kicking into high gear. We need to prove fraud, coercion, harm. We have the embezzlement, I said. We have the fake marriage to Tiffany. We need more, Deidre said. The Vances have an army of lawyers. They will argue the contract is old, invalid, or that the marriage was consensual and therefore not hostile. We need undeniable proof of criminal intent. We need to prove he planned to destroy you. We need the Quiden slush fund, data from the Vanguard servers, Vince said. The data showing he paid off the pharmacy. The data showing he paid off the police to frame you. If we link that to the contract, it's over. But I still can't hack the main Vanguard server remotely, Vince admitted, looking frustrated. It's air-gapped, meaning it's not connected to the internet. Someone has to plug a drive in physically. Physically? I asked. In the Vanguard building? Yes. On the top floor. In Garrett's office. I looked at the contract. It was my sword. But I needed a shield. And I needed a way into the dragon's lair. I can't walk in there, I said. Garrett has my face plastered on every security screen. But he doesn't have Tiffany's, Vince said slowly. I looked at him. Tiffany. She has access. She's his wife. She visits him for lunch, Vince reasoned. If we can turn her, if we can get her to plug in the drive. She's too scared, I shook my head. You saw her. She's paralyzed. Then we have to unparalyze her, I said, a cold determination settling in my gut. We have to show her that staying with him is more dangerous than helping us. How? Garrett is desperate for money, I said. He thinks the merger is happening in 2 days. He's going to get reckless. We need to push him to the edge. And when he snaps, we need to be there to catch Tiffany when she falls. My phone pinged. It was an alert from the home security system Vince had hacked. Motion detected. Master bedroom. I pulled up the feed on my phone. Garrett was tearing the room apart. He was throwing clothes, ripping drawers out. He was looking for something. Where is it? He screamed at the empty room. Where is the goddamn deed? He turned and saw Tiffany standing in the doorway. She was holding a laundry basket, looking terrified. He marched over to her. He pointed a shaking finger. Did you touch the safe? No. I don't know the combination. Tiffany cried. He grabbed her by the shoulders and shook her. Don't lie to me. You and your greedy mother. Did you take it? Garrett, you're hurting me. He shoved her. Harder this time. She fell backward, hitting her head against the doorframe. She slumped to the floor and didn't move. Tiffany. I screamed at the phone. Garrett looked at her motionless body. He didn't check her pulse. He didn't call 911. He stepped over her, grabbed his keys, and stormed out of the apartment. He left her, I gasped, grabbing my coat. He left her there to die. Let's go. Vince was already running for the door. Deidre, call an ambulance. Tell them to meet us there. I didn't care about the warrant. I didn't care about the contract. My sister, my stupid, selfish, annoying sister, was bleeding on the floor. And the monster was gone. We arrived at the penthouse building 3 minutes before the ambulance. The doorman tried to stop me, recognizing my face from the wanted posters. Miss Sterling, I can't let you. My sister is unconscious in Unit 401, I snarled, pushing past him. If she dies because you wanted to play cop, I will buy this building and evict you personally. Get out of my way. Vince was right behind me, his presence menacing enough to make the doorman back down. We sprinted to the elevator. The ride up felt like a lifetime. I kept checking the feed on my phone. Tiffany hadn't moved. A small pool of dark liquid was spreading under her head on the parquet floor. Ding. I punched in the code. Vince had reset it for me remotely during the car ride. The door flew open. The smell of vanilla perfume was gone, replaced by the metallic tang of fear. I ran to the bedroom. Tiffany. I dropped to my knees beside her. She was pale, her skin clammy. The cut on her forehead was deep, bleeding sluggishly. Tiff, wake up, I tapped her cheek. Come on, Tiff. Her eyelids fluttered. She groaned, a low, pained sound. Mel? I'm here, I said, ripping the hem of my shirt to make a compress. Don't move. Help is coming. She blinked, her eyes struggling to focus. She looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in years. He stepped over me. I know, I said, brushing the hair out of her face. I saw. He didn't care, she whispered, a tear leaking out and mixing with the blood. He thought I was dead and he just walked away. He's a monster, Tiffany. I tried to tell you. Mom, she rasped. Call Mom. I hesitated. But she was bleeding. Okay. I put my phone on speaker and dialed Eleanor. Hello. Mom's voice was impatient. Background noise of clinking silverware. She was at lunch. Mom, it's Mallory. Tiffany is hurt. Garrett pushed her. She's bleeding from her head. Mallory? Where are you? Are you turning yourself in? Mom, did you hear me? Garrett assaulted Tiffany. She needs you. There was a pause. Then, my mother's voice turned cold. Mallory, stop trying to sabotage their marriage. Garrett called me. He said Tiffany tripped over a rug because she was drunk. He's very upset with her clumsiness. He stepped over her body. I yelled. He left her unconscious. Garrett is a busy man, Mom said dismissively. If Tiffany tripped, that's her fault. Tell her to clean herself up before the gala tonight. She needs to cover that bruise. It's bad for the brand. Click. The silence in the room was deafening. Tiffany heard every word. The hope in her eyes died. It was replaced by a hollow, terrifying darkness. The illusion was gone. The golden child realized she wasn't gold. She was just collateral. She doesn't love me, Tiffany whispered. It wasn't a question. She loves herself, I said softly. And she loves the money Garrett promised her. The paramedics burst in then. They swarmed Tiffany, checking her vitals. As they loaded her onto the stretcher, she grabbed my hand. Her grip was weak, but desperate. Don't let him win, she hissed. Kill him. Mel, destroy him. I will, I promised. But I need your help. Anything, she wept. I'll do anything. I need you to go back to him, I said. Vince looked at me shocked. Mallory, you can't be serious. He's dangerous. I know, I said, looking at my sister. But he thinks she's broken. He thinks she's a drunk who tripped. He doesn't know she's woke up. I squeezed Tiffany's hand. Can you do it? Can you go back there, play the victim one last time, and plug a drive into his computer? Tiffany looked at the blood on the floor. Then she looked at the engagement ring on her finger, the symbol of her shackles. I'm an actress, remember, she said, a bitter smile touching her lips. I played the perfect daughter for 20 years. I can play the perfect wife for one more day. We'll be listening, I promised. Vince will wire you. If he raises a hand, we break down the door. No, Tiffany said, her eyes hardening into flint. If he raises a hand again, I won't need you to break down the door. I'll break him myself. We watched the ambulance take her away. You're sending her back into the lion's den, Vince said, his voice low. No, I corrected him, watching the flashing lights fade. I'm sending a Trojan horse. The hospital discharged Tiffany the next morning with a mild concussion and 6 stitches. Garrett picked her up. We listened through the bug Vince had sewn into the lining of her purse while she was in the ER. You clumsy idiot, was Garrett's greeting as she got into the car. Do you know how much trouble you caused? The doorman is asking questions. I'm sorry, baby. Tiffany's voice was small, trembling perfectly. I had too much wine. I tripped. I promise I'll be better. You better be, Garrett growled. Today is the final evaluation before the shareholder meeting. The auditors are coming to my office. You're coming with me. You're going to sit there, look pretty, and smile. Show them we are a happy, stable power couple. Of course, Garrett, Tiffany said. Can I play games on your computer while you meet with them? My phone broke. Fine. Just don't touch anything important. I looked at Vince in the back of our surveillance van, parked down the street from the Vanguard Tower. He took the bait. He's arrogant, Vince said, typing furiously to prep the uplink. He thinks she's too stupid to do damage. Tiffany entered the Vanguard building holding Garrett's arm. She wore large sunglasses to hide her bruised eyes, which ironically made her look more like a socialite. Inside the office, the audio was crisp. Sit on the couch, Garrett ordered. I have to go down to the conference room to greet the auditors. If anyone calls, take a message. The door slammed shut. Now, Tiffany, I whispered into the mic, you have 5 minutes. We heard her shuffling. The click of heels on the floor. I'm at the desk, she whispered. Plug the USB into the back of the tower, Vince instructed. The port is hidden under the cable cover. I can't reach it. It's tight. Panic rose in her voice. What if he comes back? He won't, I said soothingly. He's busy lying to the auditors. Just breathe, Tiff. Do it for Dad. Scrape. Click. It's in. I have connection. Vince's eyes lit up. Bypassing biometric security, injecting the worm, downloading the QuiDen folder. On Vince's screen, a progress bar appeared. 10%. 30%. Come on, I urged. Suddenly, the office door handle rattled. Someone's coming. Tiffany hissed. Pull it. Vince yelled. We have enough. No, it's only at 80%. I argued. We need the emails. The door opened. Mrs. Vance. A stranger's voice. A secretary. Mr. Vance sent me to get the McAllen 25 file. Silence. My heart stopped. Oh. Tiffany's voice was bright fake. You startled me. I was just dusting Garrett's monitor. It was so filthy. Dusting? The secretary sounded suspicious. Yes. A good wife keeps a clean house, right? Tiffany giggled nervously. Is the whiskey over there? Yes, excuse me. We heard the secretary walk to the bar cabinet, pour a drink, and leave. She's gone, Tiffany exhaled. Is it done? 98%. 99%. Done, Vince cheered. Pull it. Tiffany pulled the drive. I got it. Good girl, I said, feeling a rush of pride I hadn't felt for her in years. Now, get out of there. Tell him you have a migraine and need to go home. No, Tiffany said. Her voice changed. It wasn't the scared girl anymore. I'm staying. What? Why? The shareholder meeting is tomorrow, Tiffany said. He's keeping the physical ballots in the safe in this office. I saw him put them there. If I leave, he might move them. Tiffany, it's too dangerous. I'm staying, Mel, she said firmly. I'm going to switch the ballots. I'm going to make sure that when he tries to vote with his stolen shares, he's voting for his own funeral. I looked at Vince. He shrugged, impressed. She's got guts, he said. She's a sterling, I said, a smile tugging at my lips. Be careful, Tiff. We'll see you at the finish line. That night, the surveillance van felt like a bunker before D-Day. We had the evidence. We had the contract. We had the inside man, or woman. Vince was parsing through the downloaded data. This is gold, Mallory. Look at this. He pointed to a chain of emails between Garrett and a Dr. Thorne. Garrett, the old man is getting suspicious. He's talking about a contract. Dr. Thorne, the compound will mimic congestive heart failure. Just make sure he takes it with his evening whiskey. Garrett, done. Transferring the remaining payment to your Cayman account. That's it, I whispered, tears pricking my eyes. That's the murder weapon. We have him dead to rights, Vince said, his hand covering mine on the desk. His palm was warm, rough, and grounding. Tomorrow, he burns. I looked at Vince. In the chaos of the last few days, I hadn't really looked at him. I saw the exhaustion in his eyes, but also a fierce loyalty that I hadn't earned yet. Why are you doing this, Vince? I asked. Really? It's not just about Vanguard. At first it was, he admitted, turning his chair to face me. I wanted to watch them lose everything like my parents did. But then, I saw you. Saw me. I saw a woman who lost her father, her home, her fiancé, and her reputation in 24 hours, and didn't break, he said softly. Most people would have run. You fought. You're dangerous, Mallory Sterling. And I kind of like dangerous. I felt a blush rise to my cheeks, something I hadn't felt in a long time. I couldn't have done it without you. We make a good team, he said. The air between us crackled with a tension that had nothing to do with corporate espionage. He leaned in, just an inch. I found myself leaning in too. Then, Deidre kicked the back of the van door open, carrying 3 large coffees. All right, lovebirds, save the romance for the victory party, she announced, oblivious to the moment. We have a legal strategy to finalize. The shareholder meeting starts at 9 a.m. sharp. We pulled apart, smiling awkwardly. Right, I said, clearing my throat. The meeting. I drafted the motion. Deidre slammed a stack of papers down. We are going to invoke the integrity clause publicly. We aren't just going to sue him later. We are going to strip him of his CEO title live on stage. What about Mom? I asked. She'll be there, Deidre said. Sitting in the front row, expecting to be the queen mother of the merger. She's going to try to stop me, I said. Let her try, Deidre said grimly. You have the truth. She has. Bridge Club. I spent the rest of the night memorizing the speech. I looked at the dress Deidre had brought me. It wasn't a designer gown. It was a sharp, black power suit. It looked like armor. I texted Tiffany one last time. Are you safe? A reply came 10 minutes later. He's asleep. The ballots are swapped. See you in hell, sister. I closed my eyes. Tomorrow, I wasn't just taking back my company. I was taking back my name. The grand ballroom of the Palmer House Hilton was packed. Chandeliers dripped crystals from the ceiling, casting a golden glow over the sharks in suits below. This was the elite of Chicago's business world. And they were all here to watch the merger of the century. I stood in the wings of the stage, hidden by heavy velvet curtains. Vince was in the audio booth, having hacked the AV system earlier. Deidre was in the crowd, ready to serve the papers. On stage, Garrett stood at the podium. He looked dashing in a tuxedo, the picture of success. My mother sat in the front row, wearing a silver gown, clapping enthusiastically. Next to her sat Tiffany, looking pale and fragile, wearing a high-necked dress to hide the bruises. Ladies and gentlemen, Garrett's voice boomed over the speakers. Today marks a new era. Sterling Interiors and Vanguard Holdings become one. A union of creativity and strength. Applause. Some of you have heard the unfortunate rumors about my former fiancé, Mallory, Garrett continued, his face adopting a mask of solemn sadness. It breaks my heart to say that she has lost her way. Greed and mental instability led her to flee the country. But we must move on. For the sake of her father's legacy, I am stepping up to guide this ship. Liar! I whispered, my fists clenching. I call for the final vote, Garrett announced. All those in favor of the merger and the appointment of myself as permanent CEO, hands shot up. Mostly the board members Garrett had bought off. And I cast the majority vote. Garrett smiled, holding up a golden envelope. Representing the 51% share of the Sterling Trust, managed by myself and my wife, Tiffany. He opened the envelope to pull out the ballot. He froze. He pulled out a piece of paper. It wasn't a ballot. It was a drawing. A drawing of a middle finger. Garrett stared at it, confusion wrinkling his perfect forehead. He looked at Tiffany. Tiffany stood up. She wasn't shaking. She walked up the stairs to the stage. Tiffany. Garrett hissed off mic, "What is this?" Tiffany walked past him to the microphone. "My husband is mistaken," she said, her voice clear and ringing. "He doesn't hold the majority vote." The crowd murmured. Mom stood up, waving her hands frantically. "Tiffany, sit down. You're drunk." "I'm sober, Mom," Tiffany said into the mic for the first time in my life. She pointed to the curtain where I was hiding. "The majority shareholder is here." That was my cue. Vince hit the lights. A spotlight slammed onto me as I stepped out from the curtains. The black suit was sharp, my bob haircut fierce. I didn't look like a fugitive. I looked like the CEO. "Hello, Garrett," I said, my voice amplified through the speakers Vince had commandeered. "Did you miss me?" The room erupted. Cameras flashed blindingly. Garrett looked like he had seen a ghost. "Security," he screamed. "Arrest her. She's a wanted criminal." "I'm not the criminal here," I walked to the center of the stage. "And neither are you yet. But give it 5 minutes. Get her off the stage." Garrett lunged at me. 2 security guards started to move, but Deidre stepped into the aisle. "I am her legal counsel. If you touch her, you're interfering with a federal whistleblower investigation." The guards hesitated. In the world of high stakes, nobody wanted a federal lawsuit. "Whistleblower." Garrett laughed nervously. "She's a thief. She stole $2 million. Let's talk about that money," I said calmly. "Vince." The massive screen behind us, which was displaying the Vanguard logo, suddenly glitched. It turned black, then red. Then, bank records appeared. "This," I pointed to the screen, "is a transfer of $200,000 from the Sterling accounts to a shell company called Blue Horizon. And here is a transfer from Blue Horizon to the Golden Nugget Casino in Las Vegas, under the account of Garrett Vance." Gasps ripple through the room. "And here," the screen changed, "is a wire transfer to a pharmacy supplier for a custom compound of digoxin." Garrett's face turned ashen. "That's fake. She hacked the system. She forged it." "These are from your hard drive, Garrett," Tiffany said, standing next to me. "The one you told me to guard with my life." "You little bitch," Garrett snarled, raising his hand to strike her right there on stage. The entire room saw it. The mask slipped. The charming CEO was gone. The abuser was revealed. "Don't," I stepped in front of Tiffany. "You will never touch her again. You have no power here." Garrett screamed, losing control. "I own this company. I married the heir. The contract stands. Ah, the contract, I smiled. I'm glad you brought that up. I pulled the yellowed envelope from my jacket pocket. You based your entire takeover on the idea that my father was weak, I said, addressing the silent crowd. But Robert Sterling wasn't weak. He was patient. I held up the document. This is the Independence Agreement of 1995. Article 5. The poison pill. What is that? Garrett whispered. He honestly didn't know. His grandfather had buried it deep. It states, I read loudly, that any hostile action by a Vance against a Sterling results in the immediate forfeiture of all Vance shares in Sterling Interiors, and a penalty of $50 million. I looked him in the eye. Framing me for embezzlement? Hostile. Beating my sister? Hostile. Murdering my father? I let the words hang there. That activates the clause. You don't own 51% of my company, Garrett. You own 0. And you owe me $50 million. Which, according to your own bank records. I pointed to the screen where his negative balance was now displayed. You don't have. This is insane. Garrett looked at his father, the chairman, who was slumped in his chair, clutching his chest. Dad, do something. But his father couldn't do anything. Because the side doors of the ballroom burst open. Federal agents. Nobody move. A team of FBI agents, led by a stern-looking woman, marched down the aisle. Garrett Vance, the agent announced. You are under arrest for wire fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy to commit murder. Garrett looked for an escape. He looked at the backstage exit. He looked at the crowd. Every face was turned against him. He looked at me. Mallory, please. We can talk about this. I loved you. I laughed. It was a genuine, free laugh. You loved my wallet, Garrett. And now it's closed. Garrett was tackled by agents as he tried to run. The chaos was absolute. The press was in a frenzy. I stood on the stage, the adrenaline vibrating through every cell in my body. Tiffany was crying silently beside me, but they were tears of relief. I walked back to the microphone. The room went quiet, watching the woman who had just toppled an empire. I looked directly into the live stream camera at the back of the room. I knew millions were watching this unfold online. I took a deep breath, steadying my shaking hands on the podium. Whatever you've heard about me, I said, my voice steady. This is the truth. They tried to take my voice. They tried to take my legacy. But they forgot that the truth has a way of coming out, especially when you have nothing left to lose. I paused, leaning in closer. If you are watching this and you've ever been silenced, ever been underestimated, or ever had someone try to steal your light, then you know this feeling. The feeling of standing up. If you are with me, if you believe that justice shouldn't just be for the rich and powerful, please, right now, like this video and comment the number 1 below. Let me know I'm not standing here alone. Let me know that you're part of this fight. Your support is the shield that protected me when I had nothing. Comment 1 now and let's finish this story together. I waited a beat, imagining the numbers flying up on the screen. Then I turned back to the room. My mother was standing up. She was trying to push past the police line to get to the stage. Mallory. Tiffany, she wailed. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. He tricked me too. I looked at her. Really looked at her. The woman who sold me out for a monthly allowance. I walked to the edge of the stage. You knew, Mom, I said, my voice amplified so everyone could hear. You knew he was hurting Tiffany. I called you. You told her to cover the bruises. The crowd gasped. All eyes turned to Eleanor. She shrank back, realizing her social standing was evaporating instantly. I was trying to protect the family, she stammered. No, Tiffany stepped up beside me. You were protecting your country club membership. Get away from us, I said. Don't call us. Don't come to the office. You are done. Eleanor crumbled, sobbing into her hands as her friends moved away from her like she was contagious. Garrett was hauled to his feet, handcuffed. As they dragged him past the stage, he looked up at me. His eyes were wild, filled with hate. You'll regret this, he screamed. Vanguard will crush you. Vanguard is bankrupt, Garrett. Vince shouted from the AV booth, his voice booming like the voice of God. I just triggered the automatic liquidation clause. Your stock is trading at zero. Garrett's knees buckled. He was dragged out, screaming incoherently. It was over. The dragon was slain. The castle was reclaimed. I looked at Tiffany. She looked broken, battered, but free. We did it, she whispered. We did it, I said. And for the first time in forever, I hugged my sister. Not the fake hug for the cameras. A real one. Two survivors standing in the wreckage of the life that was chosen for them, ready to build the life they chose for themselves. The weeks following the shareholder meeting were a blur of legal proceedings. Deidre was in her element. She filed the civil suits, the restraining orders, and the probate challenges with terrifying efficiency. The poison pill contract held up in court. It was ironclad. Because the Fiancés had committed crimes against the Sterling estate, the forfeiture clause was activated. I sat in the courtroom as the judge read the verdict. The defendant, Garrett Vance, is found guilty on all counts, the gavel banged. Sentencing is set for next month. Furthermore, the assets of Vanguard Holdings are hereby transferred to the plaintiff, Mallory Sterling, to satisfy the debt obligation. I owned them. I owned the building where Garrett had abused my sister. I owned the accounts he used to pay his mistresses. I didn't keep it. I didn't want their tainted empire. I liquidated everything. I sold the Vanguard buildings to affordable housing developers. I sold their luxury cars. I sold their private jet. And the money? The $50 million? I used it to start the Robert Sterling Foundation, a grant program for young designers and architects who couldn't afford college, and a special fund for victims of domestic abuse, providing legal aid and safe housing. Garrett got 25 years. No parole. The murder charge stuck thanks to Dr. Thorne flipping on him for a reduced sentence. Tiffany testified against him. It was the hardest thing she ever did. She had to sit on the stand and recount every hit, every insult, every moment of weakness. But she did it. After the trial, Tiffany came to my office. She was wearing jeans and a t-shirt. No makeup. She looked younger and paradoxically stronger. I'm moving away, she said. Where? Montana, she said. I got a job at a ranch. Physical labor. No press. No parties. Just horses and dirt. That sounds different, I smiled. I need different, she said. I need to figure out who Tiffany is when she's not trying to be a Sterling or a Vance. She put a small velvet box on my desk. This is the ring, she said. The diamond. It's worth a lot. Take it. I don't want it, I said. Sell it. Put it in the foundation, she insisted. Please, Mel. Let me do one good thing. I took the box. Okay. She hesitated at the door. Mom called me. And? She wants money. She says she's going to lose the house. Let her lose it, I said coldly. She can get a job. Tiffany nodded. That's what I told her. Goodbye, Mallory. Thank you for coming back for me. Goodbye, Tiff. I watched her leave. I knew it would be a long time before we were truly sisters again, if ever. But at least we weren't enemies. My mother did lose the house. The bank foreclosed on it 3 months later. It turned out Garrett had convinced her to take out a second mortgage to invest in his crypto scheme. She lost everything. She moved into a small apartment in a retirement community. I pay the rent directly to the landlord. It's modest. Clean. Boring. I don't visit. I send a card on Christmas. That's the boundary I set. I forgive her enough to keep her off the streets, but not enough to let her back into my heart. As for me, Sterling Interiors didn't just survive, it thrived. The scandal, ironically, made us famous. Clients admired the Iron CEO who took down a corrupt dynasty. We had a waitlist 2 years long. But the best part wasn't the business. It was the guy sitting in the corner of my new office, typing on a laptop. Vince. He had officially joined the company as Chief Security Officer and unofficial chief of keeping me sane. Hey, he called out. I found a bug in the new payroll software. Fixed it. You're amazing, I said, walking over to him. He spun his chair around and pulled me onto his lap. I'm just protecting my investment. Oh? And what investment is that? I teased, running my hand through his messy hair. He kissed me. Softly, then deeply. And the little one. He placed a hand on my stomach. I smiled. I was 3 months pregnant. We hadn't announced it yet. We were enjoying the secret. Do you think it's a boy or a girl? I asked. I don't care, Vince said. As long as it has your eyes and my hacking skills. God help us if the baby learns to hack before walking, I laughed. Life wasn't perfect. I still had nightmares about the cell. I still flinched when people raised their voices. But I was healing. I walked to the window. The Chicago skyline stretched out before me. Somewhere out there, Garrett was in a cage. Somewhere out there, Tiffany was mucking stalls. Somewhere out there, Mom was playing bridge with people who didn't care who she was. And here I was whole. And a year later, we stood on the shore of Lake Michigan. The wind was whipping my hair, now grown out to a shoulder-length bob, across my face. It was a small ceremony. Just Deidre, my maid of honor, Lyle, my best man, and a few close friends from the design world. I wore white. But not lace. I wore a sleek, modern silk suit. I was done with frills. I was done with looking like a doll. Vince looked uncomfortable but handsome in a suit. He kept tugging at his tie until I slapped his hand away, laughing. Do you, Mallory Sterling, take this man? I do, I said, louder than I intended. And do you, Vince? I absolutely do, he grinned. When we kissed, the small group cheered. Deidre was crying openly, ruining her mascara. Lyle was beaming like a proud grandfather. After the ceremony, we walked away from the group, down the sandy beach. We did it, Vince said, wrapping his arm around my waist. We did, I agreed. I looked at the water. It was vast, unpredictable, and beautiful. Just like the future. I thought about Dad. I imagined him sitting on a cloud somewhere, smoking a cigar, laughing at how we took down the Fiancé. You're the foundation, Mel. I touched the locket around my neck. Inside was a tiny photo of Dad and the date of the poison pill contract. I turned to the camera, breaking the fourth wall one last time. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, I said to you, my audience. But I disagree. Revenge is just the appetizer. The main course? That's success. That's happiness. That's waking up every morning next to someone who loves you for your strength, not your silence. I squeezed Vince's hand. If you're in a dark place right now, if you feel like you're the invisible child or the victim, listen to me. You have a poison pill inside you too. It's your resilience. It's your truth. Don't be afraid to use it. I smiled, a real, radiant smile that reached my eyes. My name is Mallory Sterling. I built a company. I took down a tyrant. And I'm just getting started. The screen fades to the bright blue sky above the lake. And so, as Mallory's journey comes to a close, we are reminded of the extraordinary strength that lies within each of us. Her story is not just one of revenge or justice, but a testament to resilience, self-worth, and the power of truth. It teaches us that even when the world seems to conspire against us, when betrayal cuts deep and the odds feel insurmountable, we have the ability to rise, to fight, and to reclaim what is rightfully ours. Mallory's courage shows that no matter how broken we may feel, we are never beyond repair. We can rebuild, stronger and wiser. This tale also reminds us of the importance of knowing our value and refusing to let others define it. Mallory's victory wasn't just about taking back her company, it was about reclaiming her identity and showing the world that she was more than the labels others tried to place on her. It's a call to all of us to stand firm in our truth, to protect what we've built, and to never let fear silence our voices. What about you? What lessons did you take away from Mallory's story? Share your thoughts below or simply comment, "Good," if this reflection resonated with you. Let's start a conversation about strength, resilience, and the power of standing up for what's right.